Hi, everyone. I'm Danielle D'Souza Gill, and I will be hosting Dinesh's podcast while he is away this week. As you may have heard, he is in Australia doing a grand tour with Tucker Carlson, making sure everyone down under is getting some conservative stuff. If you have seen me on here before, I frequently substitute for him. I'm the author of 2 books, Why God, an Intelligent Discussion on the Relevance of Faith, as well as The Choice, The Abortion Divide in America. So make sure to check out my books. You can also find me on social media. I'm at Danielle D'Souza Gill on all the platforms. I'm on Truth Social, the best platform. I'm on X. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Rumble, all those places. I am frequently busy being a mom to my daughter Marigold and supporting my husband's campaign for U.S. Congress in North Texas. But I always love coming on here and guest hosting. Well, we have a lot of content to get to today. We are going to be talking about the border crisis. We're going to be talking about Biden seemingly flip-flopping on this issue, but honestly, at the end of the day, he is flooding our southern border with illegals. We will also speak with Kim Gilfoyle about the upcoming CNN debate and her new book. We will also talk about Hollywood. What happened to the good old days of good stuff in Hollywood? This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
America needs this voice. The times are crazy. In a time of confusion, division, and lies, we need a brave voice of reason, understanding, and truth. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
You notice that this summer, everyone seems to be talking about how Donald Trump is expanding his base while Joe Biden's base is disintegrating? End of June heralds summer's official beginning with the summer solstice on the 20th. But throughout the month of June, the Democrats have been struggling to convince voters that they have the border crisis well in hand. They've been struggling to convince their own base and independents. As the temperatures rise and most Americans don their flip-flops and sunscreen, the Biden administration has been sporting flip-flops of a different kind. This June, Biden has been scrambling to put voters' worries about immigration to rest while he seeks to pull ahead in the national polls. We have seen him go a tiny bit ahead because of Democrats coming home, but this is not going to continue. As the end of June approaches and the first debate draws near, even the New York Times has had to admit that, at least for now, Donald Trump is pulling ahead of Joe Biden. In an article published on June 25th, David Lionheart opines the modest bump Biden's polling numbers received from his State of the Union speech. Likewise, Trump's felony convictions only produced a minuscule rise in Biden's popularity with some independent voters. The Times' own polling averages show that in both a 2-way and 3-way race, Trump leads in the states most likely to decide the outcome of the presidential election. Trump holds the edge in the swing states of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia. Leonhardt assures Biden supporters that the two candidates are essentially tied in the national polls at around 46% when Robert F. Kennedy is excluded from the polling questions. Of course, this isn't fantasy football, so the Times does not get to choose which players are on the field. Leonhardt must therefore report, albeit grudgingly, that when the option to choose Kennedy is included, Trump pulls ahead with 41% to Biden's 40%. By all accounts, the race is very close, but it does seem that Trump's popularity is increasing, while Biden's is on the decline. Biden's administration is faced with the difficult problem of how to improve his standing with voters despite his dismal performance in office and his unpopular policies. There's no better sign of Biden's dilemma than his conflicting messages about immigration and the border during his series of June reversals on this issue. And that's why some of his voters are flocking to Kennedy. Let's begin with his executive order issued on June 3rd. You see, after 1,000 days of absolute failure at our southern border, Biden finally decided to put some asylum restrictions in place to discourage the seemingly endless flow of people seeking to cross our border illegally. Groups the likes of which include human traffickers with their helpless victims. criminals with ties to organized crime, and terrorists with ties to ISIS. Oh, how nice of you to finally notice that, Mr. Biden. Some argue that the early June executive order was just a cynical response to the media finally acknowledging voters' dissatisfaction with the man-made crisis at our southern border. After all, anger over conditions on the border has been steadily intensifying. According to a Gallup poll released in April, for the third month in a row, immigration was the top concern for voters. So what does that tell us? Though mainstream media outlets generally give little airtime to crimes committed by illegal immigrants, news of countless and avoidable atrocities still reach us because they're happening, especially when the crimes are particularly heinous. For example, in late April, Amalia Kokchok-Depek and her 4-year-old daughter, Estrella, were brutally murdered with a knife and a shovel in Tampa, Florida, by the woman's live-in boyfriend, Angel Gabriel Kuzchok. In a press release, the state attorney's office reports that Chok entered the country illegally in September of 2023 from Guatemala, where, according to the U.S. Border Patrol, he is wanted for 2 murders. Why are people in other countries allowed to escape prosecution for serious crimes like murder by entering the United States illegally? That is one of the questions driving voters' dismay over the Biden administration's enthusiastic support for illegal immigration. On June 17th, a 12-year-old girl named Jocelyn Noangare in Houston, Texas, was kidnapped, raped, and murdered by Johan Jose Martinez Rangel and Franklin Pena, both illegal immigrants who were taken into U.S. Border Patrol custody near El Paso on March 14th and May 28th, respectively. On the same day each was taken into custody, they were released on an order of recognizance with a notice to appear in court. The 2 men simply ignored the order to appear in court, of course. They did, and they traveled to Houston, where they found work and moved into an apartment. Here's another question plaguing the minds of Americans. Why are people who are breaking the law by entering the country illegally and then skipping their court dates being released with no attempt to determine who they are and whether or not they pose a danger to our community? The deaths of Amalia Kokchok-Depek, her daughter Estrella, and Jocelyn Noangare could have been avoided if the U.S. Border Patrol had not released their murderers into our communities. Despite the mainstream media's ardent attempts to shame voters concerned with crimes, murders, being committed by illegal immigrants by May, it was clear to Democratic pollsters that Biden needed to throw the voters a bone, so to speak. Therefore, it is no surprise that on June 3rd, President Biden, border city mayors, and congressional Democrats all gathered for a photo op to celebrate Biden's announcement of an executive action meant to cap the number of asylum seekers at a certain number whenever a certain threshold of applicants is reached. As Politico astutely notes, the executive order was also an attempt to, quote, change the political narrative around immigration and to, quote, project political strength and governing consensus on an issue that polls show have created a liability for Biden. Unfortunately, the order pleased no one, angering both Republicans and Democrats alike. Texas Senator Ted Cruz argued that Biden has surrendered our southern border, and he is just pretending to finally do something about it. The interim rule in no way addresses the chaos and the crime going on at our southern border, the havoc being wreaked on our communities, the murders that are going on, because it merely limits numbers when there is a surge in asylum seekers. It does not offer any solutions to the problem being caused by our government's refusal to enforce immigration laws. The Democrats understandably are angry that Biden's action dares to diminish the burden placed on American communities, which, according to Democrats, these communities are obligated to surrender their safety and prosperity, no matter what laws are broken in the process. So these Democrats are to the left. California Senator Alex Padilla complained that by reviving Trump's asylum ban, President Biden has undermined American values and abandoned our nation's obligations to provide people fleeing persecution, violence, and authoritarianism with an opportunity to seek refuge in the U.S. Once Biden had angered his base by issuing an executive order curtailing immigration, he had to deliver your standard empty political gesture in the form of an executive order meant to encourage immigration. On June 18th, consequently, the White House made another announcement with a group of well-wishers and, of course, photographers in tow. It was a move guaranteed to drive home to supporters and opponents alike that Biden is equal parts clueless and insincere. According to Politico, the major new policy initiative shields tens of thousands of undocumented immigrants residing in the United States from deportation, in what amounts to one of the most sweeping immigration measures of Biden's tenure in office. Wow. Put on your flip-flops, Joe Biden. The Politico article continues explaining that under the initiative, the Department of Homeland Security will take action to effectively grant federal protections to some undocumented spouses and children of U.S. citizens. The new program, known as Parole in Place, will affect an estimated 500,000 spouses of U.S. citizens and 50,000 children under the age of 21. The measure extends the immigration policy formerly reserved for American military families to include the families of people who have entered the country illegally. Parole in place is an interesting turn of phrase, seeing as you kind of have to be a criminal in order to get paroled here. Undocumented is really just a euphemism for illegal. It's not that they're just missing their documents. So what's next? Will the victims murdered by illegal aliens, as Greg Gutfeld has helpfully suggested, be referred to as the unpulsed? If you ignore the linguistic gymnastics, you can't escape the conclusion that what this order does is release acknowledged criminals into our society. Criminals who have no respect for our border and therefore little respect for our feckless institutions that allow rapists and murderers alike to flaunt our laws and laugh in our faces. Parole in place is also an interesting phrase when you consider that the 2,000 political prisoners in jail for their part in the January 6th protest at the Capitol, many of whom are themselves veterans, would love a chance at parole. But they receive no such mercy. There is still no word from the Supreme Court on whether or not Steve Bannon, Donald Trump's former White House aide, will be allowed to parole in place while he appeals his conviction. For that matter, will our former president himself, Donald Trump, be permitted to, quote, parole in place, or will he also be thrown in jail? As the number of our country's political prisoners surpasses 2,000, it would seem that the Biden administration is averaging about one new political prisoner a day. I thought that was what the asylum seekers were running from. High crime, corrupt bureaucrats, police states rife with politically motivated prosecutions, suspicious election results that, of course, cannot be questioned, a profligate self-proclaimed elite, an economy under the control of globalist corporations hostile to the American worker. Perhaps this too is part of Biden's border security plan. Make America so unappealing to asylum seekers that they would rather go somewhere else. With all the problems the nation is facing, and Trump surging in the polls among voters that the Democrats used to command, it's no wonder that the Biden administration appears to be so desperate. Hence the flip-flopping. These executive orders just seem like a sad attempt to shore up a sad campaign in a country that Biden is neglecting and ruining. Still, Joe Biden, it's not all gloom and doom. It is summer after all. Just put on your dark sunglasses, a pair of flip-flops, and take a nap on the beach. I suspect it will be easier to quiet your own mind and drift off to sleep than to put to rest the fears that Americans have about our future. And perhaps if Biden just ignored all of us, the country might actually start doing a bit better. But the problem is, he doesn't. He has an agenda. So do his handlers. And we need to make sure that Joe Biden does not win another election for the next 4 years.
You might have heard Mike Lindell and MyPillow no longer have the support of their box stores or shopping channels the way they used to. they've been part of this cancel culture. And so they want to pass the savings directly on to you by having a $25 extravaganza. Now, when Mike started My Pillow, it was just a one product company, just the pillow. But with the help of his dedicated employees, Mike now has hundreds of products, some of which you may not even know about. So to get the word out, I want to invite my viewers and listeners to check out their $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use My Pillows, $25. My Pillow sandals, $25. 6-pack towel sets, $25. Brand new 4-pack dish towels, you guessed it, $25. And for the first time ever, the premium My Pillows with the all-new Giza fabric, just $25. By the way, orders over $75 get free shipping as well. The amazing offer won't last long, so act now. Call 800-876-0227. The number again, 800-876-0227, or go to mypillow.com. Make sure to use the promo code. It's DINESH, Dinesh.
Okay, I have never seen a discount this huge from Balance of Nature, and this discount is for a very limited time. So today is the day to order it. Look, if you have listened to Dinesh for any length of time, you have probably heard him rave about Balance of Nature's amazing fruits and veggie supplements. You've heard their customers rave about how much they love Balance of Nature and how good it makes them feel. If you've been on the fence about ordering, today is the day that you jump the fence. Because right now, for a very limited time, Balance of Nature is taking 50% off your first set as a preferred customer during their summer savings promotion. But you've got to use my special discount code when ordering. Take their risk-free money-back challenge today. Use discount code AMERICA. That's right, discount code AMERICA to get 50% off your first order. Call 1-800-2468-751 or order online at balanceofnature.com. Use discount code AMERICA and get 50% off. This is an extraordinary offer. Get 50% off your first set today. I'm delighted to welcome to the show one of our favorite people, Kim Gilfoyle. She is the host of the Kimberly Guilfoyle Show on Rumble, so make sure to head over there and check that out. She's also the author of a new book called The Princess and Her Pup. It is a great book, so make sure you go get that from Brave Books, and it's a great children's book, great gift. So Kim, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be on the program with you. Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness. Well, maybe we can start out by just asking you a little bit about your book and what kind of inspired you to want to be the inspiration author of a children's book. I know that you're usually talking about very intense news subjects and all these things, and so it's kind of a different realm. So what led you into that?
Yeah, I decided to partner with Brave Books. It's always been sort of my dream to write a beautiful children's book. A lot of people don't know I worked as a teacher, as an educator, working with special needs children and young children and children with developmental issues, etc., following in the footsteps of my sweet mother. And I wanted to do this because, especially, Donna and I have 6 kids combined. After COVID, children were very, isolated. It was a very dark, difficult time. It was tough on them educationally, emotionally, psychologically. And I wanted to do something very uplifting and helpful for children about facing their fears. And the book is about little princess who has her fears and how she overcomes them with the help of a little friend by her side. And Jack, the little dog in the book, is actually based on a real life rescue dog, ours, who's named Jack, that Don Jr. and I have. It's very cute. So we decided to name him Jack. He has like a little black eye patch. So it was like Captain Jack Sparrow, but slightly better behaved.
I loved reading the description, how like her name is Kimberly. I'm like, this is perfect. I love how she's.
How do I come up with the name of the princess? But Don always calls me Princess. So he's like, okay, let's do Princess Kimberly. It's like a little
That's perfect. She's gonna have to meet the prince in the next the sequel or something.
Definitely have to some toads, and then you get to the real prince. So it's gonna be ripped from the pages, from the headlines, a little reality almost. And also what's great is because I'm very active with furry friends and animal rescue, 10% of the proceeds do go to furry friends to help animals that have been abused and neglected and help them find their forever home. So that's fantastic. And you can get it at kgpup.com. And you can also get a Biden chew toy, which is very, very funny. It's a little, yes, we did an autopsy and there's a squeaky toy inside. And No brain there. I'm sure that surprises you.
Oh my gosh, I absolutely love that.
Yeah, and we're donating a lot of the books, Danielle, because I really want to make sure that children get them. We're donating to Bible studies. So even if you don't have a child, you want to purchase books, you can do that. And we will donate on your behalf to St. Jude's, Children's Hospitals, Bible studies, public and private schools. So children have something positive and wholesome and nurturing for them. So ages 4 to 12. And also Don likes it when I read it to him.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, I feel like at this point, it's like you have to go through everything your kids are reading because so much of just the mainstream stuff out there is horrible. So you have to buy things from, conservatives, Christians, things like that, because it's just going to be much better reading for them. Absolutely. But Kim, tell us a little bit about what is kind of your thought as far as the debate coming up. I know that President Trump is, far and away ahead of Joe Biden. I've heard some people say that, does that mean that if Joe Biden merely shows up, if he merely seems cogent, then that means he, has a win or whatever, because the expectations for him are so low. What's kind of your response to that? Because I feel like, President Trump is ahead, but I think he's going to win. But how do we kind of approach that with Biden?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, it's so true, Danielle, because the mainstream media wants to, lower Joe Biden's debate performance bar so unbelievably low that he gets essentially a participation trophy, just like simply for standing upright for 90 minutes, not collapsing to the ground. But everybody knows, they're not going to be fooled. Joe Biden is not fit for office. He's completely unfit physically, mentally, cognitively. And they've tried to do everything they can to put, the fix in. They'll do the mainstream marketing PR for him after and say it was a huge victory. They'll try to say something to disparage President Trump. But, President Trump is an intellectual giant compared to the imbecilic Joe Biden. He's truly failing, and he's failed this country spectacularly. And I really think the true benchmark for the debate should be whether or not, Joe Biden can defend, his disastrous record on inflation and out of control border invasion, wide open border, porous, criminals coming in, murderers like we've seen, people from MS-13 killing beautiful young Americans, very sad. And then, a porous border with all of the drugs, the fentanyl coming in, human child sex trafficking. So I just, I really hope that people think about the juxtaposition of when you had 4 years of American prosperity and border security with President Trump versus what we've had with the Biden, Harris administration. And what I ask and hope for and pray for is that if given a fair opportunity, to present his vision for America, President Trump will lay out exactly how he plans to improve the lives of every American, to leave no American behind. And as you know, Danielle, when it comes to that Trump versus Biden record, there really is no debate, right? It's very clear.
There is absolutely none. I mean, he actually lived under 4 years of Trump, 4 years of Biden. So we can clearly see the difference. I mean, the numbers are there. But when you look at kind of what maybe the arguments will be, do you think Biden's going to go up there and say, he is going to defend his record and say, let's have 4 more years of this? Or do you think he'll kind of try to put the blame on Trump or blame other people? Because I feel like it's so clear that people's lives are not as good as they were. Sure. Just a couple years ago. And so he may try to say, oh, well, it's not my fault. That was a residue of Trump or something, because I just don't know how he can argue that, here are the two options, like pick me, my record is great. I feel like President Trump's record is definitely better, but do you think there's any argument to be made there?
Yeah, I think they're going to lie. I think they try to fool the American people. You're absolutely right. They'll blame President Trump. They'll say this is President Trump's fault that we have inflation. This is President Trump's fault about the border. They've tried to do this already before, but the American people are wise to it. They're really smart. And we see that wherever President Trump is, whether he's in a bodega, in the Bronx, or he's in New Jersey, or he's, in Michigan at a Black church, it's resoundingly clear. And you see that with, amazingly, the poll numbers with African Americans. President Trump is up 20%. And then with Latinos as well, 30%. So it's pretty exciting. And I really think if you think about this in a bigger, more global perspective, the American dream is actually on the ballot November 5th. And I think that we're going to see that President Trump is going to make that very clear to the American people during this debate, and that despite the lawfare, the persecution, the reckless disregard for our constitutional rights, we're going to see that the people are ultimately going to have the true verdict on November 5th. And this is just going to be the first piece of it. And we're excited about VP selection. We're excited about the convention, praying for President Trump for the sentencing. And quite frankly, Danielle, what can be Joe Biden's answer for his record of historic inflation, the border invasion, the destruction that he's caused? It's going to be extremely difficult to explain it away. So the only thing is that perhaps the moderators are going to avoid those subjects entirely because they don't want to talk about the border. They don't want to talk about inflation. They want to talk about January 6th, and they want to talk about abortion, quite frankly. But we have to drill it back down to everybody that more than 3 years into Biden's presidency, the American people have seen nothing but crisis after crisis. And you see that in every geopolitical region of the world. They also see it in their pocketbooks, less money that they have, less discretionary spending, and less money to even pay for basic household goods and foods and needs. And I think they're fed up and tired of having their tax dollars being wasted and squandered away. And when you think about the numbers, and under Biden, more than 9 million illegal immigrants have crossed into our country, crossed this border illegally. And those are just the ones that we know about. But what you see, and it's shocking, because Biden is doubling down on this orchestrated invasion that he created by offering, and this is very dangerous, mass amnesty to 1 million illegals already in the country. And that is outrageous. I mean, of course, we're a nation founded on immigrants, but how about the due process and following the procedures, the right way, instead of rewarding those that cut the line and show disrespect? And their first act coming into this country is one of committing a crime. It's absolutely insane. I'll tell you something else that causes me concern and consternation is the soaring home prices. Very difficult for people to get, for first-time home buyers, et cetera, combined with very, very high, interest rates. So it's really created an unaffordable housing market. And then we see the Fed compounding that by just continuing, to print money. So it's very reckless. This Bidenomics should be like, F minus score and grade, because it's the exact way you shouldn't run a country, which is just outrageous. I mean, Argentina's doing way better than us with President Milei, because and they just had a zero, inflation. It's unbelievable. Why don't we, the greatest country and nation on earth, have these great statistics? And I believe that we can, again, under President Trump, when we get him, back in. And I just want to say to the people out there watching, it's the hardworking Americans, the traditionally forgotten men and women across the country, are the ones that are suffering the cost of Biden's war on American energy as well. So I think people really need to think about the choices they have. And I would like a fair and honest debate so people can make an informed, intelligent choice about who they want to be the commander in chief, who's able to deliver the results, and who has delivered destruction, and delusion, and essentially speaking. We're not respected abroad. We're not feared anymore. That's for sure. That's why you see everything going on with, Palestine and Israel, and the whole conflict, the war in Ukraine, reckless spending that we're doing, throwing it at endless wars instead of taking care of the issues here at home that plague us, rampant crime in cities and municipalities in blue states. It is the decline of the American dream, and we want the restoration of the American dream. And quite frankly, Americans deserve so much better.
They do. They deserve so much better. You mentioned so many great things, but something I want to ask you about, you mentioned the border, and you also mentioned Israel, Palestine. Where do you think Biden is going to be marketing himself during the debate in terms of, is he going to be moderate Joe who kind of tries to reach the center, or is he kind of stuck because he's also trying to appeal to the radicals? I mean, maybe not Joe himself because he's lost his mind, but his organizers, his people advising him, because I feel like last time he tried to pull the whole, good old wild Grandpa Joe style stuff. But since he's been in office, he's actually been extremely radical, and he has not been a center left type of president. And I feel like on the left, we even saw some of this play out with some of their primaries, that you kind of have the progressive squad type of left, and then you have a little bit of maybe some of the older kind of moderate left wing people, and they're clashing a lot over the Israel-Palestine stuff. I think with the border, Biden's actually been, letting in a ton of illegals, and yet he also maybe realized that this is too much and tried to roll it back, but maybe he's just saying he's rolling it back because he wants it to look like he's rolling it back, but he's not. So where do you think that plays out tonight? Or not tonight, sorry, the next night.
The debate, yeah. So, I think it is the factually accurate that he's going to try to say, oh, things are going better, we've done this. I mean, he'll just lie, let's be honest, because the truth doesn't support his record. It supports a failed presidency, but that he can't lead with that narrative. So I think he's going to try to come off, like you said, the grandpa or, good old Uncle Joe, et cetera. Like he's a very nice, reasonable person, and that President Trump, is an evil person that put this country into decline. But people know better. That's the thing. I quite frankly am surprised that he even agreed to debate Donald Trump. Were you surprised? You think he was going to try
Yes.
duck and cover on this?
I think it's going to be a total embarrassment because, Donald Trump's IQ is up here and Joe Biden's is not even within earshot of Donald Trump's. Yeah. So I don't know. The only thing I can think of is they're going to give him a lot of drugs and he's going to just be kind of yelling at Trump to make it seem like he has energy. It seems like that's the main thing there's so many things, but maybe the main thing he wants to prove is, hey, I can have a conversation. I can stand up. I can yell at you. And so I don't know if he's just going to be this cranky old guy, just kind of standing there. I don't know if the issues are going to play out. Obviously CNN moderating it. I saw.
Well, how about those moderators?
Yeah, they were silencing Caroline
Leavitt. Yeah.
Yeah, in the interview. And so it's kind of like, are they going to be muting his mic? Are they going to just be, of course they are. They're going to be totally biased. But I think the President Trump's will still shine through all of his points. And even just despite the unfairness of the playing field with CNN moderating it, I think it'll still be a way that President Trump can reach more people, hopefully, because he has been bringing in a lot of new people into the fold. So I think that'll be exciting.
They have referred to him in the past as Adolf Hitler. So we think these are going to be neutral or, good arbiters of a fact and be fair and not biased. I don't think so. That's why they have all these weird rules and no one can be in the audience and no one can, the mics are muted. And so, I don't know. I just know that I have total faith and confidence in President Trump. I think this is the best I've seen him. This is the most enthusiasm I've seen. This is more than 2016. It is more than 2020. Don agrees with me. President agrees. We're all like going, wow, this is fantastic. And I have people coming up to me all the time that are so motivated and excited. They like grab your arm in a nice way and say, I'm so excited to vote for President Trump. I didn't vote last time. I'm voting this time. Or I voted Democrat in the past. I'm voting for President Trump. I don't like what they have done to him with this persecution. You think about that. Imagine if somebody had done that to Barack Obama, raided his house or then tried to put him in jail for zillions of years, bringing all these fake cases. Could you imagine? There would be like riot about it. But it's okay to do it to President Trump. It's an unbelievably intellectually and ethically dishonest. So, I'm excited to get the ball rolling. I'm excited about the debate. Excited to get a phenomenal, VP to be out there on the trail for the president, for the American people. So I think some of our best and brightest days are ahead. And that's what we tell our children as well.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the horrible travesties of what's happened to President Trump, but I have to ask you, how has it affected you? Of course, you guys are just so close to President Trump and with family. And so my heart breaks to think of what he's gone through, what the whole family has gone through. And so just wanted to see how you guys are doing. And of course, I know so many of the viewers are praying for all of you every day.
The prayers, I tell people all the time, so what can I do to help? I said, can you pray? Just pray. We're a tough group, very resilient, very strong. And I know Charlie Kirk asked Don recently, like, how are you guys holding? What's going on? I know it must be so hard. He goes, fine. Fine.
That's it.
I think we're so used to just the constant barrage of the bombardment every single day. But quite frankly, we take strength and inspiration from President Trump. And he is like in a great mood. He's like happy and he's funny and he looks really good. So I'm psyched. And he's been ready for this debate. He is fired up. We've had so many good things on the trail, recently. And I think that's really given him a lot of fuel because he loves the American people so much. And so I will say to people, like, you have no idea how nice and sweet this guy is. He's like so good to all of us and to the kids and to the grandkids. And, he's that guy. He's a dad and he's a grandpa as well, like so many millions and millions of Americans. And so obviously we worry about him and we care. And I was very upset. I had to take the verdict in while I was on the air on my show. And I was like, oh my God, is there a glitch in the TV? What is happening? How's this 34 count? I was upset. Oh, I felt sick to my stomach. And then just being around him and how he handled it was just like, all right, Kimberly, suck it up. Like, we're going to keep pushing forward. But when you love someone, you hate to see people, go after him or do anything bad. And he deserves, our praise and our thanks. And most especially what we love is the prayers, like you mentioned.
Oh, well, that brings me back to your book, The Princess and Her Pup, because she gets her courage that way. And I know that President Trump inspires me. I mean, he's so courageous. You are an inspiration to me as well and to everyone. So thank you for everything you're doing and for your thoughts today. And I'm super excited to see you back on the trail and see the debate. And I know President Trump's going to just be amazing. So
amazing. Thank you so much. God bless you and your family.
I want to share with you an upcoming film that has core values like bravery, courage, individuality, hope, and a firm faith that the best is yet to come. It's called Horizon, an American Saga. Dive into the heart of the nation with Horizon, an American Saga, where faith, family, and freedom intertwine to ignite the patriotic flame. The film delves into the courage, resilience, and unyielding determination of America's pioneer spirit. Horizon, an American Saga highlights timeless values and cherished principles, serving as an inspiration and stirring tribute to the quintessential American ethos. Horizon is the story of how America became the country we love. It's the story of courageous men and women who sacrificed everything for their chance at the American dream. Hollywood legend Kevin Costner stars in and directs the epic tale of how the West was won. This 4th of July, make Horizon part of your celebration of this great nation. Don't miss Horizon, an American Saga, Chapter 1 in theaters June 28th and Chapter 2 in theaters August 16th.
Big tech, big government, and the progressives have done everything they can to silence truth and sanity. But there's a secret weapon that they can't touch. 1 year ago, a new streaming platform, the Real Life Network, was launched to provide a desperate world with much-needed programming, free from the overreach of government and media. Go to reallifenetwork.com and subscribe for free. And when you do, you'll receive an ebook, Countdown, God's Ultimate Endgame, as their way of saying thank you. When you sign up, you will have unlimited access to 100 programmers who deliver outstanding, truth-filled, hopeful entertainment for the whole family. Dinesh is proud to be among them, as you can find so many great films on there and several of his interviews on Real Life Network. Subscribe now at reallifenetwork.com and get a free digital countdown of the download and a book from Real Life Network founder, Pastor Jack Hibbs. That's reallifenetwork.com for your free ebook and access to amazing content today. We're now going to talk a little bit about the power of the media. Yes, the media is extremely powerful. This is not anything new. The media has always been considered a powerful tool for persuasion. This goes back even to the stories and plays of the ancient Greeks. During World War II, media was just another aspect of American industry enlisted in the effort to fight the Axis powers. The international radio network, Voice of America, was founded on this idea. In detailing its founding, the VOA Network website says, in 1939, the American playwright Robert Sherwood, who would become a speechwriter for President Franklin Roosevelt and later the, quote, father of the Voice of America, predicted the impact of international broadcasting when he said, quote, we are living in an age when communication has achieved fabulous importance. There is a new decisive force in the human race, more powerful than all the tyrants. It is the force of massed thought, thought which has been provoked by words strongly spoken. After our victories in World War II, the VOA would continue operating in the service of American Cold War objectives. Hollywood, despite being thoroughly infiltrated by card-carrying communists, would also join the fray. Most Americans would be shocked today to hear that the top movies of those eras included Bible epics and tales of the early Christians. They also would not believe that a Catholic bishop was the host of one of the top-rated TV shows, and that it was popular with people of all faiths. Freedom of religion was seen as one of the great advantages of living in the free West. While in Soviet and Maoist countries, Christians, Muslims, and Jews were brutalized simply for their beliefs. But that was when Americans were reprogrammed into self-flagellance. We began hating everything about their history, culture, achievements, art. Today's Hollywood is a far cry from Tinseltown in its more successful years. These people are utopian cultists. They are convinced their nonsensical and contradictory views will somehow serve to catalyze an evolutionary leap in culture. They believe themselves heralds of a progressive paradise. In their religious zeal, they have lost their humanity. Having long ago divorced themselves from the natural and the normal, they are now dysfunctionally anthropophobic, incapable of relating to or sympathizing with any other human being. In 2016, the famed Coen brothers made a movie about post-war Hollywood called Hail Caesar. In the film, one of its main characters is a Hollywood actor played by George Clooney, who is kidnapped by communists who intend to recruit him to their cause. The Clooney character goes full Stockholm Syndrome and becomes enthralled by their communist doublespeak. He's eventually rescued by a fellow actor and returned to the studio to complete shooting of his biblical tale of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Unfortunately, his newfound ideology prevents him from performing in the service of the capitalist status quo. So his studio executive does the only thing he can. He slaps him. He grabs the Clooney character by the lapels and slaps the commie right out of him, saying, "Now you listen to me, Buster. Nick Skank and this studio have been good to you and to everyone else who works here. If I ever hear you bad-mouthing Mr. Skank again, it will be the last thing you say before I have you tossed into jail for colluding in your own abduction." So then he slaps him again. "You're going to go out there and you're going to finish Hail Caesar. You're going to give that speech at the feet of the penitent thief, and you're going to believe every word you say." He slaps him again. "You're going to do it because you're an actor, and that's what you do. Just like the director does what he does, and the writer does his job, and the script person, and the other person who's supposed to hang things, you're going to do it because this picture is worth it. And if you have worth, if you serve the picture, then you're never going to forget that again." Well, let's just say that Hollywood has gone off the rails. For moviegoers, the world over, the scene is very cathartic, and you get the impression that if the Coen brothers had a hand big to slap all of Hollywood, they would use it. Heaven knows, they won't use reason. I mean, at this point, we have no idea if Hollywood is even something that we can continue to take part in. If we continue to watch their films, continue to support them, it's almost as though we are funding them. And yet at the same time, wouldn't we love to just give them a slap and say, "Hey, wake up. We want to watch good movies again. We want to watch things that are interesting. We don't want to just watch wokeness all the time." Yet Hollywood continues to go down its horrible path. So My message to you today is unplug your television from all of the horrible stuff that they're putting out today and instead put on maybe some of the old great films. Maybe put on some classic Hollywood. Maybe watch some conservative actors from back then. And actually, a lot of actors back in the golden age of Hollywood, they were conservative. Maybe you want to whip out a Greek play and read one of those. That would definitely serve for some better content than the woke stuff that Hollywood is putting out, which typically involves changing people's genders, changing their skin color, and making that the main message of the film. And even if you ignore all of that, the rest of the content that's in the movie is typically a whole lot of nothing and a whole lot of special effects. But if you turn on a film from even just a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades ago, you're going to find something a lot more interesting with a plot. It's going to have an arc. It's going to be something that really leaves you feeling like, wow, I just watched a full-blown film. I think today when people watch just pure television shows, it's because they almost don't want to have that arc, because when you watch one television episode, you're kind of left on your seat. You want to watch another episode, watch another one, and feel like you just got a little bit, you just got a little taste. Yet when you watch a movie, even if you watched a movie for the same amount of time that you watch a TV show, you feel like, wow, I just had a full-blown experience because I just watched this character change. I just watched all of these things happen that are connected. And so I think we need to go back to watching movies, getting the closure of watching a movie, as opposed to having this addiction to just constant new episodes coming out. Sometimes I hear people saying that they binge watch an entire season, or the average American's daily TV number of hours they watch is multiple hours. And I don't know where people find the time, but honestly, I think we need to go back to at least some form of classic Hollywood until we have more of our own conservative content and our own conservative films. In the meantime, of course, you can watch some D'Souza films, some of my favorite ones.
The hardest part about weight loss, getting started. But once you get started, you'll be so happy you did. Are you ready to lose weight but not sure where to start? I understand. Debbie and I were right where you are a year and a half ago. Let me tell you why we chose PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition and why I so highly recommend their program. First, Dr. Ashley Lucas has her PhD in chronic disease and sports nutrition. Her program is based on years of research. It's science-based. Second, the PhD program starts with nutrition, but it's so much more. They know that 90% of permanent change comes from the mind, and they work on eliminating the reason you gain this weight in the first place. There are no shortcuts, no pills, no injections, just solid science-based nutrition and behavior change. And finally, probably most important, it works. I lost 27 pounds, Debbie lost 25. We haven't gained the weight back. The best thing about this program, they have an 85% success rate of their clients maintaining their weight loss for life. They provide elevated maintenance support for you through the PhD alumni community, which will give you the support you need to keep this weight loss off forever. So if you're ready to lose weight for the last time, call 864-644-1900 to get started. You can also go online at myphdweightloss.com. Do what we did, do what hundreds of my listeners and viewers have done. Call today. It's 864-644-1900. We recently had some monumental news, not good news, but no one's talking about it. For the first time in our history, the interest we pay on the national debt surpassed every individual budget item except Social Security. That's right. The U.S. now spends more on interest than on national defense or even Medicare. And it's only getting worse as big government continues to spend like drunken sailors. This is why savvy investors, central banks, concerned savers are turning to gold, something that is not tied to the inflated U.S. dollar. You can too with the help of Birch Gold. For over 20 years, Birch Gold Group has helped thousands of Americans protect their savings by converting an IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. To learn more, text Dinesh to 989898. Claim your free information kit on gold. No obligation, just information. Birch Gold has earned my trust with their education-first approach, their thousands of happy customers, and their countless 5-star reviews, which is why I buy my gold from Birch Gold. Protect your savings. Text Dinesh to 989898 today.
All right. Well, that wraps up today's show. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to find me on Truth Social, Rumble, X, Facebook, Instagram, all the places. I'm at Danielle D'Souza Gill, and make sure to tune in tomorrow. We are going to have a lot of interesting content to go over. So I will see you guys then, and MAGA.
Subscribe to the Dinesh D'Souza podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify, or watch on Rumble, YouTube, and SalemNow.com.